anything that you type in the chat or what appears on the screen will be recorded. And it'll be available for everyone to download afterwards as we go through. So without further ado, let's move right into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second to share that. I'll do the entire screen just so everybody gets to see it all. And let me know if you can see my course here. I'm going to come back and open up a course here, and you'll see announcements, online classroom. If somebody can grab the mic, because I can't see the chat, and just tell me, yes, Kevin, we can see the course okay.
Yes, Kevin, we can see the course okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. Excellent. Nice to hear your voice again. So what we're going to do is walk through some looking at adding content, creating content, those types of things, ways to do that. So first off, I just wanted to look at announcements. And I know many of you have added announcements, all that kind of thing, but I just wanted to go over a couple of things that might you can do in addition to what you might be doing already. So I'm in announcements, and that's the screen where the students, it's a landing page for our courses. So what we put there is really important, especially for new students coming semester one. And of course, our minimum requirements tell us that we should have a welcome announcement for our students. So let's go ahead and see what a welcome announcement might entail and some additional things that we can do with the announcement to help out. So I'm just in announcements, and just a reminder, don't forget in Blackboard, make sure you have edit mode on. So if I toggle, it's a toggle switch, so I toggle it off, I don't have access to any buttons or anything here. It's just a blank white space. So make sure you've got edit mode on. Great. Then I've got access to this create announcement button. Now in our new theme, you'll notice that it's kind of hard to tell what's a button and what isn't. Just mouse over it and you'll see now it becomes a button, and then you can create the announcement. So here we go. Familiar looking web form, I think, for a lot of us. We have the orange asterisk, which tells us that is something that we need to add. So I'm going to come in here and we're just going to create a welcome announcement. I think I've already got the name ready there, so we'll type in the name. And then I've got the message box, the WYSIWYG box that appears many times in a number of courses. So let's just take a look in a little bit more detail about what we can do here. Also, sometimes generally the box appears kind of narrow here. So I just wanted to point out, if you go to the far right, there's the icon there to increase the size of the box, give you a little bit more real estate. Other thing that might happen, especially if you're brand new to Seneca or just getting started, you might only get one line of options up here. So if you see that over at the far right, there's a double chevron. You can click on that and it'll give you a whole lot more options that you can use. And so here we can do things like add files, insert a file, we can insert images, we can insert media. If you're teaching math, we could use math editors and things like that. And over here, we can also use HTML to add in embed codes and anything else that we want to do with this. And of course, add links and align stuff a little bit more better for readability, that sort of thing. Okay, so now let's go and add a welcome announcement. So I've got a welcome announcement already created. So I'll just come up here and I'll copy it. And I'm on a PC, so it's Control-C. If you're on a Mac, it's Command-C, and Command-V or Control-C to add it. So here's my welcome announcement. I'm going to add some spaces in here just to make it a little bit more readable as we go along. Perfect. Okay, there we go. So there's my welcome announcement. A couple of things to start. I like to go up and bump it up to a little bit bigger font. So I'm going to go up and make it 14-point font. That makes it a little bit more readable, etc. And I got some distinction and white space between the paragraphs, make it a little bit more readable. Now, the other thing I might want to do is I have a lot of international students in my course. I'm sure many of you do as well. So I want to, rather than just straight text, which is English text that some of them may or may be familiar with to varying degrees as well, I want to give them a little bit more visual appearance in there to welcome them to the course. So I can then insert here an image. So if I have my 3 rows of options available to me, this one over here is the insert the image, and I've sourced out an image that I can use. And so I'm going to browse my computer. I'm going to go and find this image if I can. I got to remember where I put it. I believe I put it here, not there. I was just doing this a little while ago, and I can't remember where I put it. Maybe it was here. Is it here? No, not there. So maybe I got to go and do this. There it is right there. So let me copy this one, and I'll put it right here in this section here. That's probably good. Sorry about that. Paste it in, and then I know I've got it, and open it up. And there we go. So this is just an image that has welcome in a number of different languages. So some of the things you can do here is change the appearance as well. I go up here and I see it's quite a large file. So maybe I want to constrain a little bit, make it a little bit smaller. So maybe I want to make it, I don't know, 250 pixels instead of 600. I've got the constrained portions check mark. So if I click that, it's automatically here going to adjust it so it keeps the aspect ratio the same. I can do add some vertical space around it. I can horizontal space. I can give it a border if I want to. You know, put in 2 means a thicker border. Solid black border is what's going to go in there. I can align it, to the right, the middle, the bottom, all kinds of stuff. I'm just going to leave it where I've put it. The other thing we do have to do is add an image description to it. So this is image. So this is an image of the English word welcome. Welcome displayed in many languages. Something like that. I'll insert that. So give me a second to close that down. And so there it is with that border around it. You don't have to put a border. I just wanted to show you that some of the appearance options that you have there. And you can do things. The other thing here is that where did I get that image from? And I just wanted to point it out to you that there's a great site called pixabay.com, and I will put it in the chat area, that you can go and get royalty-free images, and you don't even have to attribute them, and you can even use them for commercial purposes. So if you don't know about that site, it's a good one to go and learn about. Okay, so there's our welcome announcement. I'm not going to date restrict it. I will send it out to students in the class right away so they get it in their email. That's one where we can push announcement to students. And that's a good option there. I usually just send out my announcements every week. And then I won't do it here because there's nobody in this particular demo course, but then we just submit. And there it is. There's our welcome announcement. And of course, anything you do in Blackboard, you want to test it as a student to make sure that it works okay. So I'm going to come out of here and just go up to the top. Click on the Enter Student Preview Mode icon. It looks like an eye with arrows on top and bottom. And now I can see it as a student. So this is what a student would see when they first enter the course. So there's a nice welcome message. And the welcome message is invitational. It's glad that you can be here with us. And this is our site is the home for our course all this semester. And it points things like getting started. Go to the getting started section first. If you don't know where to go, that's a good place to start. And get in touch with me. Here's my faculty contact information section that you can go and look at. All right, so there's a couple of good things to try there. I'm going to stop sharing for a second just to come back to our area and ask you if you have any questions with the group that we have here. Any questions that you have about it, grab the mic, type it in the chat, whatever you want to do. Any questions so far? Is that a no? So it's either things I'm doing such a fantastic job that there are no questions, or people are really, really bored and want me to do something else. So go ahead and so far so good for Andrea. Okay, does anybody else want to have another question? Or so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create some content using Ultra. Maybe you want to create some videos for your students and show them some ideas, and I was going to go on to that next. So let's do that. I will come in here, and the last part, just to let you know, I was going to show you how to do learning modules and then to organize the content together and some tips and tricks around that. So that's what we're planning to do in the next half an hour or so to finish off today. And by the way, jump in at any time. It's a small group. Don't feel shy. Jump in with the mic and let me know if there's anything you have a question about or want me to explore a little bit further. All right, so let me go back and share my screen. There we go. And I'll bump back over to the section here. Okay, now, one of the things we can do, and you might want to do with online classes, is to create some kind of like some lecture notes. You might have done that in PowerPoint and things like that, but maybe you'd like to create a little video that shows students how to do something. And if you're, if you're not haven't seen kind of different tools out there that you can use for video, we do have one built in right into Seneca, the Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, that you can use to record a session, and it creates a video for you. So let's go and try that. How do we do that? So if I go over to my menu, I've added this online classroom menu item. If you're unsure how that's done, let me just review that. I'm going to exit my student preview. And by the way, when I exit student preview, I always keep myself in the course. I want to keep the data. That way I can always go in and try things out as a student, try the assignments, try the assessments, and test them as a student, and use myself as a test case for anything that I put in there. So that's what I like to do. Okay, so I'm back as the instructor. Edit mode is on. I've created the online classroom. How did I do that? I went up to the plus sign in here, and I added the tool link, and I just called it online classroom. So, and I made sure that it pointed to Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. Now, if I use Big Blue Button as an alternative, I could certainly do that, but I'm using Ultra, so I can make sure that's the tool I'm pointing to. I make it available to users, and I submit, and then it adds it to the menu, and then I can drag that menu item up using the compass point nav cursor to wherever I want. Okay, so I'll put it up here. So now I've got two, obviously, but so you don't need both of them. I just wanted to show you how I created that for the other group earlier today. All right, so let's go into this one, doesn't matter which one. And I'm gonna use Ultra to do a little mini lesson, okay? So I've got, I can use this room here. I created a session with just called lecture recordings, which would be a place if you just wanted to go in by yourself, okay, in here. And I just wanted to point out what I did. When I went to the settings and I created it, I didn't enable any audio, video, chat, or whatever, so that if somebody stumbled into it from the course, they wouldn't be able to do anything. So it's just for you on your own to maybe do some recordings. And then I thought, you know what, lecture recordings may not be a good idea because students might think that's where they get the recordings from. So I'm going to put in here, Kevin's room. Kevin's personal space, something like that, just so students know that's not where they get the recordings from. Okay, so let me go in there and I'll join that personal session. It's just for me, and away we go. Yeah, this might look familiar to you. And then I come over to the bottom right, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to load up a presentation that I'm going to walk them through or do a demo for students, that sort of thing. So I go to Share Files, I'm going to add a file. Okay, and I've got a file created in here in the summer conference. It's just as an example. And it just takes time to up and convert. And remember, when you upload your PowerPoints, it's not going to take the animation. It's just going to take a screenshot of each individual page. And here we go. I'm going to share that file. And here's an example of maybe I want to walk them through how to round these numbers to these certain areas. That's what I want to do. So I've got it loaded up. So now what I'm going to do is click over on the far left, and I'm going to start the recording. So this will record everything I say and make a video out of it for my students after I'm done. So I'll just take 2 seconds to just show you what you might say in the recording and how you might use some of the tools. So I'd say, hi everybody, this video is to help you learn how to do rounding, and we're going to just go through a little simple question here. And so the first part is we're going to round this number 2,642.394021 to the nearest, first one is to the nearest thousandth right here. Okay, so the thing to remember with rounding is what's the prefix on here. So this is a TH prefix, which means it's in the decimal area, which is this part of the number. Now we have to locate the thousandths, and so I'll use a different color. So this is 3 is the tenths. We always start at the tenths in the decimal area. 9 is the hundredths, and the 4 is the thousandths. So if we're rounding to the nearest thousandths, what we do is we look to the number to the right, and that is the 0. right here is the number to the right of the thousandths digit. And if it's 5 or bigger, we round it up. If it's not 5 or bigger, we leave it alone. So we're actually not going to touch it. We're just going to cut off right there. And the answer rounded to the nearest thousandths would be 2,642 decimal 394. And there you go. Now, obviously, what I would do is I would continue recording and showing all the answers here and maybe go to the next question over here and walk them through that. But I'm just going to stop there. So I'll turn off the recording. And there you go. You can imagine I've done a recording. So what happens to this recording? Okay, so let me stop that. Stop sharing that. I'm going to leave the session. Now, this is not our session. This is the session I've got running to do the recording. Okay, there we go. Let me know if you can see. There. Can you come, everybody, back to where I was? Okay. So where do I go find the recording that I just did? Okay. So what you would tell students is, go into the online classroom. And I usually make a PDF or a document that just walks them through with some screenshots to show them. Click on the online classroom, click the 3 dots menu above, and then you can change from sessions to recordings. Okay, and there your recordings will appear. Now I did one earlier, very similar. Right now the one I just did isn't available yet. It does take a little bit of time. It might take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on how long the video is. But let me just show you the previous one that I did. It's right here. Okay, and what I also did is I went over here because it gives you something like it doesn't give you the contextual name. It just says My Seneca Basics or whatever the course name is, and it just gives you like recording 1. So I went over here and I looked at the settings and I changed it, the name of it, so it makes it context sensitive. So I changed it to rounding questions, something like that. So then I can go in here and I click on it and I can watch it. Okay, and then it just show, and you can tell the students to do the same thing. Go and look at the recording. It loads the recording, and then they can click the watch button, and then I'll just go through it systematically and just see what I did here as I showed them the different parts, how to do stuff and what the answer would be, and they can watch it and view it and learn from that. Okay, so I'll go back to, I'll close that off so you've seen the recording there. Okay, and we'll X out of there. Perfect. Okay, and there's, if there was a chat involved, it would appear here because it does record chat. So just tell your students, if you've got students in a class that you're recording, make sure you tell them, hey everybody, what you type in the chat will be recorded, what you say will be recorded. So if you're uncomfortable with that, then don't worry, don't participate, you may have to find an alternative way for them to participate if they're uncomfortable with that. Okay, I'll stop that and just come back to the our own session here to ask if there's any questions about making videos using Collaborate Ultra, just turning on the recording and loading up a file and using the whiteboard markers and things to walk through a presentation and annotate that presentation. Any questions about that?
I have one question, Kevin.
Sure.
So I use Blackboard Collaborate a lot. I really like it. I like the whiteboard function because then I post my blank question there for students to participate. But my problem is erasing. So if I know how to erase the entire whiteboard, but if I want to erase one thing, though I've tried using the dots to the side over here by the recording and by the whiteboard, that the 4-way arrows and stuff, it doesn't work for me. Students know how to do it and they seem to get it, but I can't get it done.
Okay, so let's show you how to do that. Good question. And that is a common problem. Let me bump back and share my entire screen. There we go. And I will close that off. Let me go back to, let me see if you've got one here that okay, here we go. I'm going to close that off. This is the recording. Let me close that off. Okay, go back here. I'm going to come back to sessions, and I'm going to just go into the basic room and just join the room. Just for you. You can see it okay, can you?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to share the whiteboard.
The whiteboard. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So let's say I put something up there in text. Okay, so this might be the
Mhm,
agenda for today.
mhm,
So a couple of things I can do. I use the arrow key over here to click
mhm,
on it, and then it
mhm.
gives me some areas that I can increase the size of that font using,
Awesome.
and then I can just move it around. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, if I go see this clear button, this is
That's it.
confusing because
Everybody.
here's what happens: you click it, clears the whole screen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we get so frustrated with that. So what you do, let's go back, and I'm going to put an agenda again in here, okay? And I will click that arrow key and bump it up, okay? And then maybe I'm going to add another text and start listing what we're going to talk about. We're going to do a welcome, and I'm
Mhm,
going to do some other things. And I said, oh, I forgot. I don't want welcome. Maybe this part I don't want, or I've got somebody drawing over here, something
mhm.
like this. And I say, hey, everybody, don't draw just yet. And I just want to keep the agenda welcome, but I want to get rid of this part over here, right? So and this, by the way, is my awesome or terrible, depending on your perspective, drawing of Snoopy here. Here we go, and he's dancing away. Okay, and we say, nicely done, Kevin, but please get rid of it. So what you can do is go over here, and you can, click on these parts, and just see how the dots appear. You can just delete those individual items and just get rid of that stuff. And you can even kind of hopefully cover up some stuff. It's not perfect, but it will just help you. I shouldn't have drawn so much. Get rid of some items that people don't want without clearing the entire thing. So using the arrow area, or you can also use this guy. Okay,
Mhm.
but use the arrow to just highlight. Maybe I don't want welcome, so just highlight welcome, delete, and then you've just still got the agenda there. You've cleared the whole thing.
Thank you so much. This is going to save me a world of pain.
Okay, and practice it. Practice
Okay.
that. Yeah, and again, you can, with the arrow and clicking on it, you can, as I say, you can bump up the size and do things, and then use the different colors and things like that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Shall we move on to the last part? I know it's coming to the end of the day and everybody's thinking had a long day, but it's been a great day. Good keynote this morning, and the presentations were really, really good in the sessions. And we're just going to wrap up the workshop. So let me go back here. I'm going to exit out of this particular session. It's not our session. This is the one that's in my course. And now I'm going to come here and say, well, how do I organize my content? So right now what we've done is we've used the text box to create text and images and display that, and some tools in there. Now we've used Collaborate Ultra to create some videos from presentations that are automatically posted for students that you can point them to, and that's how you find the recordings. Now, let's say I'm going to go into some weekly content, and I want to start to build kind of a flow, an organization for how I want students to progress through the course and the weeks of the course. And how can I do that? I'm going to show you how to use learning modules to do that. And before I do that, I just want to point out kind of a lesson planning strategy. Now, if you've been doing micro teaching like today, you've got that lesson plan template, which is awesome, that you can follow. But here's just an idea for what you might want to do online, this lesson plan block strategy. So on the far left is, and I've got those icons, and I'll show you how to get those in a second. The first icon is overview and outcomes. So when we start with overview and outcomes, what are the students expected to learn in this particular module? So you're explicitly stating that for them. The next column over is these guys, is what am I asking them to do? Here's some content. So what do you want them to listen to read, to watch? So it's the content in multimedia format, different ways. So not just all text, give them a video to watch, perhaps, maybe a podcast to listen to, something that way. And then after that, the next column over is what do you do once students, how do they practice what they've learned? So they do some hands-on activities. They might go to the discussion board. They might go with their groups and sort of talk about or practice the concepts that they're learning. Or they might just do homework, things like that. And then after that, over in the next column over is assessment. How do you want to assess that they've learned what you want them to learn, that they've reached the learning outcomes? So you can give them a quiz, you can give them an assignment, you can give them any other kind of task that you can think of that will help them, for you to assess how they're progressing. And the next column over is resources. Well, then are there some additional resources they can go to and say, okay, you've done this, all this and this, here's some additional stuff that you can go and refine your craft or refine your learning along those lines. And finally, and this is a really important one, is a checklist. Give the students a checklist at the end to say, have you done everything you were supposed to do? Have you looked at that video? Have you done the hands-on activity? Have you written the quiz? Have you checked out the resources? Because students will always want to know, what do I have to do? When do I have to do it? How do you want me to do it? So if you provide the checklist, this confusion knows, or have they missed something along the way? And I'll show you a real life example at the end of one of my courses that has this kind of module lesson plan block structure in it. Okay, so I think that's a good guide to follow, and so you have that kind of lesson plan idea in your mind as you're building this. So let's go and start to build it. So I'm in my weekly content, and this one I changed the name of the course documents link. I just went over here and just renamed the link from course documents into weekly content, and I just typed in weekly content and then clicked the green check mark, changed the name. I think weekly content means a lot more than just course documents, so they know it's the content. So we're in a content area, and when I'm in a content area with edit mode on, I have access to build content, assessments, tools, all this kind of stuff. Under build content, down here is lesson module, or learning module, I should say. That's what we're going to look at. How do I do a learning module for organization? What are the benefits of a learning module? A learning module creates the navigation for students, and it allows them to walk through in a systematic way through the content. So let's do it. So I click on learning module. So the first thing in Blackboard, whenever you do some of these tasks, is it's actually a two-step process. You create the learning module name, and then you fill the learning module with stuff. So let's do the first part, which is the name. So I might call it week 1. I think I've already called it. So we're maybe talking about place value in week 1 in a math course. Okay, so that's what the learning module is all going to be about. I could give it some textual information. I might want to say in here, click the link above to access the learning module, or this week's learning module. Okay, something like that. And here's another thing, and I'll do it in a second. I always bump these up to 14 point, just to make it a little bit easier to read. Let's take a look at the options we have. Sequential viewing, do you want to enforce that? I say no. I want the students to be able to jump to wherever they want and to do it. Some folks want that students to do the first task before the second task, so you can certainly turn that on if you want. It's up to you. Open in a new window. I say no. The only thing I do ever open up in a new window in Blackboard is like a web link, because those can get really navigationally nightmares happening if you don't. But for other stuff, it's okay to just say no. I think it keeps the navigation pretty consistent. Do you want the users to view it? Of course I do. And the only time I wouldn't maybe is I'm working on it. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't turn it on yet. And then once it's all done, then I certainly come back to these options and turn it on. Do I want to track the number of views? No, I'm okay with that. I think most folks will do it, and it's their choice. And it does take up resources to track views, so I tend to say no. And I never date restrict my content. Students can come back at any time and review it. The only time you might want to do it is maybe you don't want to display like week 11 before middle of the class, midway through the class, so they don't get overwhelmed with content. But even for me, I just put everything up at the beginning anyway, and they can, if they decide they want to go ahead, go for it. And so but you can put the jurisdictions on there. Do I want to show a table of contents? Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of learning modules, is it creates a table of contents for you. And if you want a hierarchy display, you can use letters and numbers and all that kind of stuff to do it, but I just say no, it's okay, just give me the bare bones stuff. I always find that you don't want to give too much options there for students. You want it to be easy to navigate, but not too many things going on. So let's just click submit. And there it is. There's our week 1 module. Right now there's nothing in it, so it does not going to do anything. But so what's our next step? Our next step would then be to put the items in this basket, this learning module container. So to do that, you click on the link, okay, and now you can start to see there's a table of contents will be built on the left-hand side there. We have no items yet, but so obviously it won't be there yet, but let's go and add some items to it. So if you remember that lesson planning block, let's go back there. First thing to look at is overview and outcomes. Okay, let's get that in there. Oops, I'm gonna cancel that. All right, so let's build that content. I use item all the time to build my content. I always find it very versatile, and you can do most everything with that. So I click item, just like the item you'd normally use, and I'll say the first thing is our week 1 overview and outcomes. Place value, overview and outcomes. Here we go. Week 1, unit 1, overview and outcomes. Maybe I should say place value because that's what it's about. Here we go. Okay, so I've got a good contextual name. By the way, make sure your names do have these contextual items in them. Don't just call it week 1. Give it some context, and don't just call it place value. It's in week 1, and it's about place value, and it's dealing with overview and outcomes. That way, students who just pull off the links know exactly what the link is going to do. All right, so now I've got my text, WYSIWYG text editor again here, text box. And I've already gone off and created my content. So I've gone to my document, Word document, or just in this case, straight text document. Here's my welcome information. I'm just gonna copy and paste it into my text box. And then of course I will give it a little bit of spacing options here. There we go. Or this one seems to have there. Okay, and then I'll fix this up in a second. I'll explain what each of these is. Of course, these probably should be bullet points. There we go. No, it's got an extra bullet at the end. I should then just release that. I don't want to have the bullets there. There we go. Okay, so and that one I think needs to come back a little bit. Okay, so here we go. We've got some information. What do you put in here? Just to let you know, I'm again invitational language, welcoming them to this unit. I give them some just some context. We use numbers every day, and so it's important that we would study this. Here's the outcomes. Okay, and I also tell them use the arrow keys or the table of contents to navigate through the items. I'm adding this helpful information, and I also add time expectations. You can expect to spend 2 hours reviewing this and another 3 hours completing the activities, that sort of stuff. Okay, now the other thing I like to do is, as I mentioned before, I want to go to 14. You don't have to do this, by the way. This is just my own personal preference. I like it bigger. And then if I go to the top, I want to give them a kind of a, remember those, if I come back out here, remember these icons that are showing you here? I want to get students in the idea that if I provide this icon to them, they'll understand, oh, that's outcomes. And then of course, next will be something to watch or read or look to, and then it'll be a hands-on activity, just so they get kind of used to what the expectation will be. So I'm going to the very top. I'm going to go to the insert image area, and I'm just going to go and browse my computer. Okay, and I'm going to go to the webinars here and look at the images. And there we go. I've got a whole bunch of images, and I'll show you, if you need these images, where to get them on our website. There's the overview icon. I'll open it up. There it is. I can go to the appearance like we did before. I can change the dimensions. These ones are already set to be okay, fine for Blackboard and all that kind of stuff, so I don't have to worry about that. But I do have to give an image description. So it's an image of a person icon showing a person looking through a spyglass. I could say things like it represents overview and outcomes. Insert that. So now they've got the visual as well as the textual going there. And then I can just simply, I could attach files if I wanted to. I want to permit users to view it, of course, the same kind of options here. I'm not date restricting it. Just submit. And there we go. We've got our first piece of content into our learning module, and the table of contents has started to be built. Now, right now, it's not very exciting. It's only one piece. So I would need to go and add the additional pieces. I would come back here and add something for them to watch, something to do, an assessment perhaps, or not. I mean, not every module has all of these. This is just a suggested flow. So let me just go add one more thing, and then I won't do it all, just one more so you can get the sense, and then I'll show you an example. So next I'm going to add another item, and this will be our thing to watch, right? The next one over, if I just remember correctly, we want them to display some content to, in this case, we're going to have them watch something. Okay, so let's go in week 1, place value and video. Here we go. We're going to have a video. So I go to I've already written out the text I want to display in here. Here we go. I will post it into the text box. I'll split it up again. Whoops. Here we go. Now, what did I say here? So again, a couple of things. I'm bumping it up to 14. If I started going with 14, keep it consistent throughout. So I say, let's begin to look at the concepts. Now, I don't just give them instructions to watch the following video. What I say is, as you watch, pay particular attention to the names assigned to each numerical digit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm asking them to actively watch, not passively watch. So give them some instructions to when you have videos, not just to watch, not just the link to the video, but what you want them to do as they watch it. So they have that in their mind as they're doing it. The other thing to do is I'm going to provide a direct link to the video, to the place value video. Okay. And I've got to be able to spell. Here we go. All right. And again, I bump that up to 14 point. Now, the direct link I have gotten from YouTube. This was a YouTube video. How do you get stuff from YouTube? Just right-click on any YouTube video. Just go right into the middle of the video, right-click, and it'll give you options to download the direct link or download the embed code. And I'll show you the embed code right away after this. So just pull those off. And when I did that, I got these two things. There's the direct link from YouTube. So let's take that, copy that out. And I've highlighted this part going up into my toolbar here, and I've got the chain, which is the insert edit link option. I paste that in, and here's where I open in a new window. This will really screw up the navigation as you do open in a new window. Please, when you're opening links or videos, things like that, open in a new window. And I'll insert that, and there you go. It's now a link. Now, the other thing I want to do is maybe I just want the video directly there so students don't have to go out and get it. So I get the embed code. So here we go. Same strategy I used before. Right click on the video and it'll ask you, do you want the embed code? And you say, sure. Not all YouTube videos will allow embed code. It's whoever posts the video has to enable embedding for it to give you the code. So if you don't get the code, it means the author of the video has not allowed it. Most people do. So here we go. I've got this, you'll see this iframe embed code. I'll copy that. And now to do that in Blackboard, what you have to use is this HTML option at the top. You can't just embed it directly in the text box. Doesn't work. So you have to go to HTML, and it pops open the HTML view. Just go to the end of all this code and just paste it there. You don't have to worry. So if you're not familiar with HTML, you're worried about making a mistake and screwing some of the stuff earlier, just go to the very bottom, put your cursor at the bottom, insert that there, and I'll just push update. And what it's doing here, and I think I can come back. There we go. It puts a yellow box in there. It will appear. You'll see it in a second as we go through, but for the time being, it just puts a yellow symbol in there to represent that there's an embedded media object there. Remember, again, we've got those icons. So I want to go and find the icon for watching, right? So here's the icon for watching here. I've got those in my, I come up to the insert image, browse my computer. There's my image down here. There's the one I use for watching. Open that up. Appearance, I think it's already set, so I don't have to worry about it. Add in the description. So this is an image. This is an icon of something like that. That would help somebody who can't see the image understand what it is. And there we go. All right, so let's submit that. Let's take a look at how our learning module is coming together. So we've got our overview and outcomes. Now I've got the content, and you can see what the video looks like embedded directly there. And there's the direct link. And you test these to make sure they're working. Let's just take a look from a student perspective. What does it look like? Okay, so now that we've started this, go to the student preview and test it. Make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I'm a student in my own course. What would I experience if I went to weekly content? So here it is, week 1. I click on it, and I see that I've got a table of contents with active links. I can navigate to the different sections here. Okay, I can minimize this table of contents or maximize it, minimize it. I can throw it to the bottom if I want to give me more real estate. I can bring it back up. I can open it up a little bit more. So students have control over the table of contents and where it's positioned, and that might be if they're using a phone or a tablet, they might want to put it in a different place. Or they can also use the buttons, front, forward and back buttons over in the top right here. So here I can just move to the next item, and I can test the video, make sure it's playing, test the link here, make sure it's going. Looks like it's working perfectly fine from there. So that's how the module would come together. And then you'd go back, everything seems to be coming along nicely. I'll come back here and out of student preview, I'll go back into my weekly content, and I'll go back and continue to add items based on this kind of learning block. So and then I put a hands-on activity, assessment, summary, all that kind of stuff. All right. I know that's a lot to chew on and to get all at once. Let me just show you then, just to finish off today before we go to questions, what does it look like in a course? So I'm going to come back. Let me just pause for a second. I just want to make sure nobody's in there asking a question that needs immediate attention. Okay, we're good. I'm going to go into a math course that we taught in the summertime with another faculty member. So here we go. I'm going to go, it's in student preview mode already on. So as a student, let's take a look at the weekly content module for this course. I'm going to scroll down all the way to the bottom because I'll look at the same one that we just did, week 1 here. So here's, by the way, here's how the modules would appear. There'd be a list of modules with the most recent week above, unit 1, unit 2, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 from there. So let's click on week 1. Here's the module as a student. There's all these items in the table of contents. So here it is. There's the overview. Here I've got a little thing that says stop. Hang on a second. This is the first week. Make sure you've gone to the Getting Started page that shows you how to, access the core, all kinds of things for students to get started. And I can show that to you too if you're interested. Then we've got now let's go watch the video. Remember, there's that video to watch. Then hands-on activity, remember? So I created a hands-on activity for them to do in here. Then the next was assessment, right? So here's an assessment that they can go and try, a little quiz, 3-question quiz that they can go, et cetera, et cetera. And at the very end, there's a summary. So here's that summary checklist that says, oh, did I review the content? Have I watched that video? Have I completed the lessons? And blah, 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 blah. And if you have, congratulations, you're now ready to move on to week 2. Whatever the next part is. And so these are just a series of learning modules that helps organize content and allow students to concentrate on the content, not necessarily how do I navigate through the content. Okay, I'll stop there to our course, and let's see if there's any questions that you might have. So the assessments there, Ava, were created in H5P. Yeah, I could have just used the assessment tool directly in Blackboard, but I just had those as using the H5P area in that eCampus has available for any educator. You can create a free account there and use all the great tools that they have there. All right. Any other questions? Okay.
One quick one, Kevin, one quick one.
Yep, sure.
I'm supposed to be having a meeting with the coordinator for one of our courses, and one of the questions that is going to come up is, do we use the publisher's lab or do we use Blackboard's test for the final assessment? My preference is the publishers, because when I use the publishers, each of my student gets a different set of question of numbers and names. So I create one question, and then the publisher changes the names and the numbers, and then they grade it. Is there a feature in Blackboard? Because I've used Blackboard quiz once, and I had to put in the numbers, and I don't know that Blackboard can change those numbers.
Yeah, and I use that in my math course. I can show you. I use what's called a calculated formula questions, and it does exactly that. What it does is it randomly generates numbers based on a question, and and then it just so every student gets a different question. I also use pools a lot. So I create a question, then I create a very similar question, not the same question, and then when I make a test, I just say pick one of those 5 types of questions, so students don't always get the same question. So there's a lot of different strategies that you can do in there to have the same kind of effect that a publisher would do. But on that note, it would be whatever your school decides, whatever the group of faculty that are teaching that course, along with their coordinator and
Yeah, we're meeting to decide this, but I wanted to have some more informed decision before I jumped and said, no, I prefer A over B, because
right.
I don't know enough about A. I know a lot about B, but nothing about A. So I didn't want to, just because B is what I like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and at this time, in this stage, it might be that you want to go with something that's familiar, but it does work in Blackboard that you can do all kinds of randomization, all kinds of different numbers for questions, etc.
Oh,
And we do have some on our Teaching Learning Center site, some modules and webinars on the assessments. So you can go back and look at those, how pools are created, all those kind of different types of things.
okay.
Good question. I tell you what, I'm going to turn the recording off at this stage.